Welcome to the Living Superhuman Fitness Podcast, where we take you inside our gym, CrossFit Palm Beach, each week. It's here that we are creating new superhumans every day, transforming people's lives, helping them reach a level of health they never knew possible. We strive to answer your most burning questions on fitness, health, nutrition, training, motivation, mindset, lifestyle, and more. If you have a question, please email us at info@crossfitpalmbeach.com. You can also learn more on our blog, livingsuperhuman.com. And if you have a moment, we'd love a review from you on iTunes. All right, it's time. Let's stop being average and start living superhuman. Hey guys, welcome to the Living Superhuman Fitness Podcast. My name is Andrew Frezza, and I'm joined today by
Craig Avera,
Whitney Stevenson,
and Rose White.
And today we're going to be talking about the importance of knowing why you work out. So as we head into 2018, we're recording this in 2017 at the end of the year, but you guys will probably get this in the early part of 2018. And a lot of people are going to be setting goals, things they want to accomplish over the next year. And I think it's really important to really set goals that are your goals, and they're not some random goal that you just kind of stumbled upon and now you're working really hard for, but you're ultimately digging into why that goal's there in the first place, and then you're setting goals that are meaningful to you. So there's a lot of common scenarios in the gym that we see where like people have a certain why, but then their actions in the gym are not really matching up to that. So we're going to go through that, and maybe some of you guys will be able to relate to some of these situations. One of those is a lot of our athletes, like the number one goal we have once people kind of get established here and they lose the weight is they just want to feel better outside the gym. They want to have more energy. They want to continue to kind of keep their weight the same and be healthy. And then some of those athletes, once they step into the gym, get really caught up in like RTG in every workout or RXing in every workout, or technique kind of goes, to crap, and they're going heavier than they need to on a given day or whatever it might be, and they're putting themselves at a higher risk of injury and sacrificing potentially feeling good outside the gym by putting that higher risk of injury out there. So let's start with that scenario first. You guys think of anything else that I kind of missed on that one?
I think it's good. I've been there before, where you have this idea of how you're going to feel outside of the gym, and then once you take it too far, you can definitely cross that line. And I've had it where I felt really good training, and I was doing way more volume and higher weights, and so I was like, okay, this is definitely going to transfer over into normal life. And then as soon as I'd leave the gym, I'd just be exhausted, have to take more naps, have to do more recovery, and I'm like, wait, where'd the day go? Because it was all spent training. And if that is your goal, that's one thing. But if you are looking to do one thing and not achieving it because you're overtraining in the gym, I can definitely see that be a very common fault that can happen to people.
Yeah, I mean, the idea of like getting bigger, better, faster, stronger in the gym, and like doing an RX workout maybe when you're not ready for it, can lead to like obviously some injury, and then also just not taking care of the smaller things, like not taking care of like how you warm up or how you're stretching or getting to the gym on time, knowing what the workout is, like doing all those small things that kind of seem really simple, but they don't seem like the RX or RTG athlete would be doing it, but they are already doing it. They've kind of mastered that. So just starting with the basics and making sure you're mastering all the small things before you're kind of, putting the cart before the horse, I guess.
And I think it's hard if you are a competitive person, just because like your goal is, okay, so if you're someone, your goal is to feel better outside the gym, but then when you're in the gym, you get competitive. Sometimes you can't even help it. Like you're like, oh crap, Craig's next to me going faster or doing this much weight. So then you're competitive and you just, push yourself, and then you finish, you go home and you're like, oh my God, that was stupid. It wasn't worth it. So you just have to remember, like, it's good to be competitive, but be competitive with yourself and not necessarily those around you, because not everyone has the same goal as you. So they're doing what works for them, and that might not be the best thing for you.
Yeah, it's just like that athlete is focused on the result. Like they come in here and they're focused on, all right, I'm going to have the best score on the leaderboard today. I'm going to have, the highest number or the highest weight for the strength work today. And then they're not focused on like that process. They're not focused on the small things that can actually help you feel better outside of the gym versus getting the best score on the leaderboard.
it can also get a bit conflicting, I think, because you can have like a big picture goal, and then within that you can have smaller picture goals, and sometimes those fall within the gym. Like, okay, my big picture goal is I want to feel better so I can play with my kids and be more mobile and, eat what I want to eat a little more liberally. And so you have this big picture goal, and that's great. And that's kind of like a continuous thing. But then inside the gym, you have these goals like, yes, I do want to RX every workout, and I do want to, be in the top 20% of times just for my own knowledge and, EO, whatever you want to call it. Whatever your reason is fine. It's your goal, But sometimes those can kind of counteract each other. So
yeah, I think that's really a tricky interplay, because I think one of the biggest benefits of CrossFit is it can take some of that stress and obsession away from the weight loss goals or the eating outside the gym, and you just get, hey, I want to get 5 pull-ups, or I want to get my first pull-up, and that driving towards that performance goal, as opposed to like an aesthetic goal where people tend to be a little bit more obsessive on those things, it can really put people in a situation where they now enjoy their workouts, and it's no longer this stress of showing up. So it's like, how do you balance those things out? I mean, when I look at a new person, and like when I know they're gonna stick here is when I see that shift of it's no longer so much about the aesthetics, and they're starting to value performance-based goals.
Right. It's a cool switch to see. I agree completely. I think, and that's one thing I always ask, like any client or a new member, it's like, what are your goals? Because if you don't have goals established, then it's kind of like you're just showing up and working because a coach is telling you to do it, which, can be good enough in some situations, but really, to maximize what you're doing here, and this is not easy work, you want to have goals, or at least a goal in mind, so you have a direction.
Yeah, I think the mention of like goals, and you're having a why and having like an intention behind why you're working out, it also is like fluid. It's never really going to stay the same. Like after your first year, things might shift, or your life might shift. And like, that's not to say like you're not doing CrossFit anymore, but it's to say like, all right, now your goals within CrossFit are going to change to support your life. So it's really important to have like a fluid, it's really important to have like a fluid relationship with that, and not feel like, oh, I wrote this goal down on paper and, I'm going to only achieve it. It might shift. It might shift after you achieve it. It might shift even before. So just being able to have like a fluid kind of relationship with that, I think helps a lot.
Oh yeah, we've seen that so many times. I mean, we've had, pregnancies is a big one, having the kids, new jobs, new businesses. You guys, like all you guys can relate to this. Like, there's so many things that life happens, it gets in the way, and then if you're stuck on this thing, it's gonna be bad news.
Yeah.
Cool. So another situation that we see with kind of the why not matching up is we have a lot of athletes that come in mainly for the fun of it. They've hit a lot of their goals outside the gym. They love the group classes. They love the community. It's the best hour of their day. It really is. And then maybe progress slows. They hit a plateau for a month or two. In the long run, they're still seeing progress, but they're like, I want to progress faster. And they start to search out the perfect program. They start to search out training on their own and doing all this extra work, or skipping classes several days a week so they can do this specific program. And they start to get away from the fun and the community of what brought them in the first place and what keeps them working out. And what are your thoughts on that?
I've always loved doing class more, and I competed, for a long time, from like 2012 to 2015. I was very into competing, and I would still do a class or two every week, even though our team would be kind of set to this other program. I'd always jump into class because for me, it helped me stay mentally just having fun. If I did only the stuff that we were kind of supposed to do, it took the joy out of it. I was just like, shit, like why am I doing this now? Like we want to get to regionals, we want to get to the games, this is great. But if we get there and everyone's miserable, like you're gonna look back in 5 years and be like, did I really have that much fun? And I just decided no. So I would try and balance the two, and I always enjoyed taking class with everybody else more than the stuff I had to do. So for me, I've always liked doing class.
Yeah, I think class is super important. Like Craig said, I think you just need it to have fun and just kind of not take everything so seriously all the time. And especially if you're newer and you do want that extra work, which is nice about, we have comp work built into our programming, which is really nice for people. And I think it's important just to like talk to a coach first before you seek it out on your own and then like go in the corner by yourself. Talk to a coach, and there may be other people that you can do it with. So you're still not doing it alone, but maybe you text, or post on the community page, hey guys, before class or after class, who wants to do this with me? Just so you're not, just by yourself, and you're still involved in the community and with your friends, because it definitely makes a huge difference, I've found.
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of a little bit of that is good, like having a little bit of independence to like kind of own your fitness and like seek out maybe mobility things or extra gymnastic things or whatever you want. I think it's really good to be vulnerable enough to talk to a coach and share your goals and share maybe what you're learning. But I also think it's really important to like check back in again with your why. Like if you're looking for the perfect scenario, like this is life and planet Earth. Like that doesn't exist. And the way we get better is we deal with imperfect scenarios, and it's how we respond to them. It's not like how I create the best thing and make it perfect. That's not going to make me better. That's not going to make me grow as a human or an athlete. So, I'd rather have a more imperfect scenario and figure out how I can respond in a way that it's going to work versus trying to like seek out and add this like magic pill. It's not. CrossFit is not about finding the magic pill or taking the easy way out. Like from the get-go, you kind of understand that. And if you're in that scenario where you feel like you need all this perfect thing to kind of like, get better, I would like kind of check back in with yourself and maybe reevaluate where you're coming from.
When I think about this person, I think of like putting the end result above the journey and like not valuing the journey. And like you said, not every piece along the way is going to be super easy and super fun. There's going to be challenging times, but put elements in the journey that are meaningful and exciting and fun for you, so it's not just about the end result of I hit that 10-pound PR when a 5-pound PR and enjoying every day would have been a little bit better.
Yeah, it's kind of like broadening the focus too. Like somebody can get so focused on getting a handstand walk, they might, not be able to run 800 meters at some point, because they, injure themselves, or they, they're just so micro-focused on that small, goal that they don't have that big picture kind of involved. So, I mean, CrossFit's for the long game, it's for health, it's for fighting chronic disease, and like, that's the focus, not, getting you to go 10 feet on a handstand walk and hurt yourself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It can also be a bit of a distraction within the community. Like it can create kind of a disarray if you have all these people doing different things and none of it's the programming that you and Dom and all of us spend time putting into this cumulative program like that. It should be kind of like the athlete should trust the coach that we are setting up a program for them that is going to get them a good overall general physical preparedness goal. And then, but then there's that tricky balance, because I respect it when people do have kind of like, okay, I want to get better at something and I feel like I may need to add some kind of supplemental training or piece to that. So it's just a fine line. And it's always kind of been that way,
Cool. All right, so next scenario is, this is someone who says they want to be competitive at CrossFit. They do have that competitive bug. Maybe they're doing local competitions. Maybe they want to excel on a regionals, games level, potentially on a team, something like that. But then when you look at how much commitment they want to put in, it's an hour a day. It's like, I have enough to do 60 minutes. And maybe that's kind of falls back to our last situation. They're like, I want the perfect program that's going to help me get there in 60 minutes a day, or at the most like 90 minutes a day. But they're not really willing to put in that commitment. I'll hand it over to Whitney, because she's on the more competitive side right now. What have you seen with that? Because you definitely put in a lot of time to your training.
I mean, it's not that I don't think there is an athlete who could probably just do 60 minutes a day and make a regionals team. I think that person is probably doable, or that goal is probably doable for the specific person. But like, I think if you're only willing to only do 60 minutes of your day in the gym and not devote any of your life outside of the gym to getting and being better and building your character and like building up those building blocks outside of the gym, that's going to help you, maximize those 60 minutes. That's where you're going to be falling short. For me, it's more than 60 minutes because I have bigger goals, and it's just what I need to do to get there. And actually as much time as I spend in here, I spend more time outside of the gym trying to like, hone in on my focus and my attitude and my character and what I'm doing. So the time that I do spend in the gym is solid, it's good, it's not distracted, and it's fun. And I would say like, for that person that wants to be competitive, look at what you're doing outside of the gym first. Like look at what you're eating, who you're hanging out with on the weekends, what books are you reading, what TV shows are you watching, how you're taking care of your nutrition, how much water are you drinking, how are you sleeping, what are you sleeping on? Like those are things that I'm going over as a competitive athlete, and I think that if I was on a team, I would want my teammates to be going over. That's just how kind of serious it is to me, and how serious it needs to be when you get to like a certain level.
Yeah, and you do have to take it seriously, and you have to be honest with yourself, because especially now, it's just so hard. It's so competitive. And yeah, unless you're like Craig or someone that's really gifted and you can just do an hour a day, it's just so much more work now. And like I see it like with Whit, like she was saying, it's not just, I just did 3 hours of training in the gym. Like she said, it's everything else outside of that, and it is your life and your job. I mean, these CrossFit athletes that are going to the games, that is their job. They don't have to go to work after their 6 a.m. workout or whatever. I mean, it's their whole life. So unless you're willing, but unless you're able to do that. I mean, if you can, sacrifice everything else to focus on that, then that's great. But if not, it's just so hard now, I think.
I mean, that's the best way to say it. If people, I mean, it's kind of a bit of tough love, but most people just won't make it. And no matter how much they want it, you have to be so gifted, dedicated. You have to have no other, stuff going on. And all these athletes fit that bill, unless you're born on Froning Island or are Valerie Vobrel, who is a teacher and somehow trains an hour a day and still manages.
He's also a master's athlete, by the way.
Yes.
Competing in the open
and
division.
would still whoop my ass on any workout. It's amazing. But, aside from the anomaly or two here and there, I think so important now, especially, now there's only 4-person teams with the new formats. It's not even 6. So even if maybe you've made it the last couple of years, you may not make it this year. It's like you have to have realistic goals. You have to have them. And if you keep reaching for something that's so far above your reach and you're not willing to put in the effort to even try to get there, let alone have the ability, it's just like...
Yeah. And I think if that's your goal, if your only goal is to make regionals or make the games, and you're going to be so hyper-focused on only that, then you might probably not be making it.
Yeah, you also have to think in reverse.
Yeah,
right?
because if that's the goal, at one point, you're going to be miserable training. I am lucky, I don't know how I was born like this, but I love training. I've always loved it with whatever sport I was doing. I love working hard. And so there's this love I have for the process, for training really hard, for taking these other things in my life and trying to make them really, make myself better at all of them. And somebody else might think that's miserable. Oh, you only, read when you go home, or you don't watch, certain TV shows, or you're, just there's things I do in my life that I think if I shared with other people, they might think I'm really boring or something. But to me, I love it. And that's not always for everyone either. You kind of have to have that love for the journey and the process to make it work. If you're just holding on for the result, it's not going to work for you, and that's not going to be a really good why that's going to get you to your goal. You might get there, but then you might feel totally empty when you get there because, now I made it to regionals, now what? You're not fulfilled because your why was only for the end result. It wasn't for the journey and the process and kind of how you change as a human being, through that journey, I guess.
It's almost just train hard, enjoy the ride, and if you are good enough to make it to that level, people will let you know, oh my God, you're finishing really high in the open. You need to train a little bit harder to make that cusp. Because if your goal, like Whit said, is just to make it, and you're always chasing this ghost that's unattainable, I mean, at what point do you just give up? You just don't know.
Yeah.
It's like a means to an end.
I like what Whitney hit on, because it's going to lead right into our next one, which is kind of the habits that support this next person, which is we have a lot of people that they set these goals, and usually it's a short-term thing, okay, this month I'm going to do a challenge. I'm going to come 5 to 6 days a week. This is my year. This is the time I finally put it into place and lose the weight. I finally going to start CrossFit, or I've been on and off with CrossFit, but now I'm going to be consistent with it. And I think these people, even though they have the best intentions, there's something in that initial why that doesn't have the character and the habits to support this goal. So what I see with this person is they tend to start when the timing's perfect, like it's the beginning of the year, all right, all the parties have ended, all these things, and then inevitably those things come back at some portion over the next year, and they haven't built these habits and these character traits to support that.
Yeah, and I think the best way to go about that is whenever you're starting out on your goal or journey or whatever, just kind of like take it easy, ease your way into it no matter what. If you set these big goals right out of the gate and you can't meet them, then you just get frustrated and then you give up. But if you set maybe even smaller than you should, then you'll be excited that you met it, and then that'll give you momentum to keep going. Like Keith, one of our members that just had a baby, was saying that he was really happy that he was able to do 3 days his first week back. And he's like, and that's my goal for the next month, just get in 3 days. And he's like, it's small, it doesn't sound like a lot, but like I know that's something that is realistic. And I mean, this week I think he was able to do 4. So like he surpassed what he set for himself, and that gave him confidence, and he was getting excited, and that's a better way to go about it rather than setting 5 to 6 days a week and only being able to make 2. So that's how I'd go about it.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think kind of talking about Whitney's point is I see this pull back to kind of where you were is a lot of times it's the people you surround yourself with, and it's the stuff outside the gym that you don't even really think twice about, like the little things like TV or maybe eating out, or not having that routine to kind of support this new path, and it's because it's not there, it becomes this temporary thing rather than it's starting to become a lifestyle shift. When you get to the point where you actually look forward to like reading a book on mindset when you go to bed before watching this other thing, that's when that shift really becomes to happen, but it comes from that why being powerful.
Yeah, I think just knowing, like, I don't know, I'm gonna put it out there, there's no magic pill or perfect timing.
We should talk afterwards.
There just isn't. And if that's kind of what you're waiting for, you're probably going to be waiting a long time. Like if you're waiting for the perfect scenario and like all the moons to like line up and the weather to be a certain way and the wind to blow, the right direction, then you're going to just keep yourself waiting. You're going to find an excuse. And even if you do make it in the door, then you're eventually going to find another excuse because this isn't perfect, or you're just kind of setting yourself up to fail when you think that way. And I think just focusing not on all these other external factors that you have no control over, and just focusing on like, okay, what is the small step I can do to either get to the gym today, or break a sweat at home, or just take a baby step towards maybe that bigger goal that you have of even just coming to the gym.
Yeah.
Cool. So I want to talk to you guys. How do you feel like your personal whys have changed or evolved over the years, or if you feel really clear about where you are today, what's that look like for you guys?
Okay. So for me, I think I went from just like starting out, being really excited. I've kind of gone through all the people we talked about. Really excited and loving class, and then I was like, oh, I need more, because I get a little obsessed with things. So like a couple years ago, I was like, oh, I need more training. So then I started to get more competitive. So I started following an outside program instead of what we were doing at our gym. And that was great because I was doing it with people, so I wasn't doing it by myself. So I started putting in like 3 hours every day in the gym, and that was really fun for a while. And then that started to not become fun anymore. For me, it became like a chore, and I'm like, God, I'm lifting 125 pounds, which is cool for me, but like I had to be realistic with myself and be honest, like there's no way in hell I'm gonna make it to regionals, just because I just don't think I'm genetically gifted enough, but also because I was like, all right, in a year I'm gonna be opening up a business and I'm not gonna have more than an hour to train. So, I had to shift gears and say, okay, I'm not that person that has the 4 hours to put in the gym and then all these hours outside of the gym. And I'm not enjoying what I'm doing. So, what can I do differently? So I just started to take class again, go back to the basics, go back to like day 1 when I started. And then I started to love it again. I just started to find enjoyment in it. I was having fun, and that's really, for me and for my goal, is like all I need. I still do some stuff on my own outside, but nothing too crazy, and that's just, I don't know, that's just worked for me. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, my goals have, shifted vastly. We're kind of in the same boat, but I was very competitive for a few years where it's all I cared about was getting a team to the games and coaching and training and coaching and training and sleeping and eating CrossFit, and that's all I cared about. So it was okay. There wasn't a bigger thing that I was, having to battle, that there was no conflict, I guess. So I did put all my focus into it, and it worked out. And then, as Rose said, we're opening a business together, and as soon as you have something else, I think your fitness goals have to kind of adapt to your life goals. I think it shouldn't be the other way around unless they're in tandem, which was the case for me for a while, So it was kind of an interesting thing to have something else that, became almost like more important than fitness, which was so important for all those years. And, CrossFit will always be a part of my life, I hope, but when that shift happened, Drew and I talk about it all the time, but I started just doing class. It was more fun, it was less pressure, and my body feels better. I'm not as strong as I was, I'm not as fit as I once was.
Yeah, you're really out of shape. Yeah.
But it is bizarre. Like I pretty much kept like 90% of my fitness, I would say. So the other 10 dwindled off somewhere into the sunset, and I'm okay with that. But I'm spending, 20% of the time in the gym that I once was, which, frees up the rest of my day. Whitney obviously is in a different boat, which is fair.
Yeah. I feel kind of the same as you. Like, I've been all these people. I feel like I've been all these people. I feel like my why has changed from the very beginning to like right now when I'm sitting here. I don't know. It's so funny because I feel like no matter what I would be doing, I would be competing. Like, maybe not in the sense of where I'm like trying to go to an event and like compete on the floor, but like when I was working for Lululemon, I was very competitive. I was like, I'm gonna be VMSOS, I'm gonna be doing this, I'm gonna be doing this. Like, I had these goals very similar to like how I compete here. So it's not necessarily, I think no matter what, I'm always gonna be competitive. Even if I end up wanting to open up a coffee shop, like, I'm gonna be competitive in that, and I'm
Was
sure.
that foreshadowing?
No, not really, no. But I'm just saying, like, you're probably still gonna be competitive in, what you're doing outside of the gym.
Yeah.
I think that like, my why for doing CrossFit has really nothing to do with competing, which is really cool for me, because then I get to kind of enjoy competing. My why, I guess, for doing CrossFit is just that, like, I believe in it. I believe, that it does like fight chronic disease and keeps you healthy. My 71-year-old mom does it, which is really cool. And then the other thing is that it has like built my character, like from day one. Like, this has been something that I knew like day one doing that I was gonna change from it. And it's really cool that I can sit here today and be like, I'm so different than the person I began CrossFit as, and I'm like a better person because of it. And I know that continuing to do it, I'm just gonna become better and better. I might not be competing better and better, but I might be a better human, which is really cool. And then the third is that, like, I don't know, I feel really lucky that I'm in the situation that I'm in, and like really fortunate that I have like an influence on other people, like in a positive way. I feel like no matter where I went with my old sport, I never had this like positive influence on people. And I feel like I really have that, and I enjoy that as a coach, I enjoy that as a mentor, as a friend, to my peers. Like, I think it's really important to be able to be a positive influence for other people, and I think that's something that in my old like workspace I wasn't getting that. So I feel like super fulfilled to have that in CrossFit.
Yeah, and that's one thing that was big for me. Was I had this, it wasn't like a defining moment, but it kind of just gradually happened. But there was a time for a long time where I was like, okay, I'm a CrossFit athlete and I coach as well. I'm a CrossFit athlete, I coach as well. I compete and then I also coach. And then at one point it was like, I think I'm more of a coach, or they're at least equal. And now it's like, okay, I feel like I definitely I identify myself more as a coach, and I am fine with that. And then the competitive, the actual competition of it has taken a back seat to being a coach, and like you said, helping people. And it's much more gratifying in a lot of ways. And I just did not have that really for a lot of years. So it's kind of a cool shift.
Yeah, one thing that I don't think anybody's touched on yet is a lot of times the shift happens through injury. So that's been my personal experience is More recently, I've had other impactful things, but years ago it was injuries. It was, you know, when you're sprawled on the ground because like you hurt your back in a competition and you know, you can't move well for a week or two, it really forces you to kind of be reflective and think within, like, okay, do I really want this thing to sideline me in this other area of my life? Is it worth it for me? So in a lot of ways, I think injuries can be a blessing in that way, and I encourage our members, when some of these like major injuries happen, to try to find the positives in it to allow you to dig deeper into that why. And then Ben Bergeron has a couple just things that have stuck in my head personally. One is, like, for competing specifically, is do you love the idea of competing, or do you love the idea of being a CrossFit athlete, or do you truly love the day-to-day grind that comes with that? And you know, when I talk to Whitney, you can feel it, you can hear it in her voice that she loves that day-to-day grind, and you can see that she's on a path that's appropriate for her. When I think about that with me, like, I can think about my first couple CrossFit workouts of how I was like, I don't know if this is even for me, kind of a thing. So it's like, if that's where you kind of, you go back to your like origin story, and you can see a lot of those things where she's going back to her like origin story of like swimming and growing up and always loving that training. For me, I love the camaraderie. You know, when I think back to playing baseball, it was always about the team stuff, and I enjoyed, even though I was good at it, I enjoyed like the dinners after the game more than the game itself, or hanging around in the dugout, stuff like that. So, you know, when I think about that, like, I'm gonna prioritize my life and my why around creating an awesome community, and that's something that I feel like we can be really good at here, and I want to put my time and energy into doing that. So,
That's really good.
all right, anything else? All right, let's wrap it up. Thanks for joining us, guys.